Hello, market research students. Dr. Z here, and just wanted to provide you a little overview of Chapter 8. It's an important chapter as we'll discuss designing good research questionnaires and structuring good research questions. You can apply this even if you're going to be doing interviews rather than surveys. It's important to ask good interview questions and also design good interview flow. Jesus was a master of asking good questions, and I want to share a passage from Luke 5:33-34. They said to him, "John's disciples often fast and pray, and so do the disciples of the Pharisees, but yours go on eating and drinking." Jesus answered with a question, "Can you make the friends of the bridegroom fast while he is with them?" In other words, he made them think and really think about what they were asking by asking a good question. So in Chapter 8, our objectives are to describe the steps in questionnaire design. We're going to look at questionnaire development process. We're going to look at the characteristics of good questionnaires. We'll also look at some bad questions, understand the role of introductions or cover letters, and then look at the importance of other documents used with questionnaires. There are two types of questionnaire design. The first is descriptive research designs, and that's where we collect data that can be turned into knowledge about a person, object, issue, or even organization. So over break, I received a questionnaire from the Census Bureau collecting census data, and they wanted things like my address, how many people were in my household, the names of the people in my household, our dates of birth, and then also our countries of origin. That data will be collected and turned into knowledge that will be dissected by state, city, and even down to zip code level. Predictive survey questionnaires collect a wider range of data, and that is often used to predict changes in attitudes and behaviors, as well as to test hypotheses. If we add this new feature to our product, will people buy it? You all are familiar with what a questionnaire is. It's just a set of questions, and as we learned in prior weeks, that uses scales to measure the intensity so that we can generate raw data, and then from that data we can analyze the data to make good decisions. This is a list of steps in questionnaire design, and I would advise you to take a look at our textbook. There is a great market research case for American Bank out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that goes through each of these steps and gives you examples of what we're talking about when you go through the steps. So make sure you take a look at that market research case in our textbook. So in the American Bank case in the textbook, the bank wants to expand regionally, and so to improve its decision making, information is needed on banking habits and patterns, satisfaction and commitment, as well as demographic and lifestyle characteristics of current and potential customers. So based on those objectives, they're going to collect selected demographic information, lifestyle information, identify preferred banking services as well as attitudes and feelings, and then identify demographic lifestyle characteristics of its market segments. In the second part is where we choose the data collection method, and they have broken it down into 4 different sections: banking services, lifestyle dimensions, and banking relationships, as well as demographic characteristics. Then questions. Unstructured questions are open-ended and allow the respondents to reply in their own words. Good news is you get good, rich data. The bad news is it takes a lot of time to analyze open-ended responses. Structured questions are closed-end and require the respondent to choose from a predetermined set of answers, or on a scale of 1 to 5, scale to 7 Likert points to determine intensity. If you ask questions that are sensitive in nature that people may be reluctant to answer, your wording is very important in those types of questions, as well as placement. You typically want to place those types of questions towards the end of the survey rather than in the beginning, so that you don't scare respondents away. You really want to try to avoid asking bad questions, questions that are worded vaguely, questions that may not be scaled properly. And then if it's unanswerable, you can't expect respondents to answer questions that they have no knowledge for, or questions that are tricky. For example, if we asked, what was your parents' yearly after-tax income last year, that's probably a question that you can't answer because you don't have access to their tax returns. Or avoiding leading or loaded questions. For example, a loaded question would be, most Americans are against raising taxes. Are you in favor of raising taxes? Again, you've loaded that in the front end by saying, most Americans don't favor it. So are you going to be in opposition to most Americans? So you don't want to word things that way. And then lastly, double-barreled, and can even be triple or quadruple-barreled, where you're asking about more than one thing in the question. An example of this would be, do you agree or disagree that Home Depot employees are friendly and helpful? Well, you've asked two different things, friendliness and helpfulness. It would be much better to ask those questions separately, or maybe your intent was just to find out helpfulness and the friendly was just an add-on that you don't really need in the question. It's perfectly acceptable to have skip questions within your questionnaire, and these could be screening questions. For example, all of you are going to, in some form, ask or have respondents acknowledge that they are at least 18 years of age. Well, if they're not, then your questionnaire could go right to the end. You thank them for participating. However, they're not eligible because they're not over 18 years of age. Or maybe you're studying student athletes in the Crossroads League. So you could have the age question, and then you could also have, are you currently a student athlete on a Crossroads League team? Well, yes. Then they continue. No. Again, it would take them to the end of the survey. What you don't want to do is have skip questions in the middle of your survey. You want to have those right up front so that you don't waste people's time if they aren't eligible to participate. I would like you also to read Survey Questions 101 that I've posted in Moodle. And the whole goal here is to help you avoid making some of the mistakes that are cited within that article.